Hello students, today we shall do the poem A Thing of Beauty by John Keats through this PowerPoint presentation. Before starting the poem, let's know about the life of John Keats. His famous poems, Beauty is Truth, Truth Beauty, that is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. These lines are not from the poem A Thing of Beauty. These lines are from the poem An Ode on a Grecian Urn, in which he talks about the real beauty and magnifies the beauty of art. John Keats was an English romantic poet. He was one of the main figures of the second generation of romantic poets, along with Lord Byron and Percy Bysshe Shelley. He was born on 31st October 1795 in Moorgate, London, England. His father, Thomas Keats, died in 1804 in an accident, and his mother, Frances Jennings, remarried. But that marriage was a failure, as the man whom she was married was a fortune hunter, and mother also died in 1810, and Keats rendered orphan at the tender age of 15. Keats had 4 siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister. He was the eldest of all, and he was very much attached to all his siblings. Keats was a medical student and registered himself at Guy's Hospital, but he devoted more time to his study of literature. Despite his works having been in publication for only 4 years before his death, but his poems were not generally well received by critics during his lifetime. His reputation grew after his death, and by the end of the 19th century, he had become one of the most beloved of all English poets. His first poem was an imitation of Spenser, written in 1814 when he was just 19 years old. In 1816, the sonnet O Solitude was his first poem published in the magazine The Examiner. His collection Lamia Isabella, The Eve of St. Agnes, and other poems were published in July 1820 before his last visit to Rome. John Keats died in Rome on 23rd February 1821 from tuberculosis. He was just 25 years of age when he died. His body was buried in the city's Protestant cemetery. His last request was to be placed under a tombstone bearing no name or date, only the words, "Here lies one whose name was written in water." 7 weeks after the funeral, Shelley memorialized Keats in his poem Adonais. Once Keats wrote in his letter to his beloved Fanny Brown in February 1820, "I have left no immortal work behind me, nothing to make my friends proud of my memory, but I have loved the principle of beauty in all things." He published only 54 poems in 3 slim volumes and a few magazines. His poetry also resonated with deep philosophic questions and sensuous description of the beauty of nature. So this was all about the poet. Now we will do the poem. Now let's know the backdrop of the poem, A Thing of Beauty. It is an excerpt from Endymion. Endymion poem appeared in late 1818 in the month of April. It's Keats' first poetic use of the myth and first long narrative poem written in 4 books of about 1000 lines in each, written mostly in heroic couplets. It is named after its hero, Endymion, a figure taken from Greek myth who lived on Mount Latmus. The poem narrates the Greek legend of the love of the young shepherd Endymion for Cynthia, the moon goddess. The enchanted shepherd wandered away through forests, down under the sea, resolved to seek Cynthia. In his wanderings, Endymion is guilty of falling in love with an earthly maiden to whom he is attracted by human sympathy. But in the end, the goddess and the earthly maiden turn out to be one and the same. Keats, however, was dissatisfied with the poem as soon as it was finished. Endymion is in many ways a response to Shelley's Lastor, which was written in 1816. Now let's start the poem. In this part of the poem, the poet John Keats says that a thing of beauty not only provides us an instant pleasure but also continues to inspire us throughout our life. It never ceases to exist in our heart. With the passage of time, the effect of the beautiful thing becomes more profound. The beautiful thing is like a ray of hope amidst the world's miseries. It refreshes our souls, rejuvenates us, and soothes our frayed nerves. It is like a retreat from the ugliness in the world. Every day, such beautiful things in nature bind us to the earth. To Keats, beauty is not only in nature but also in other forms of art, such as legends and sagas of heroes who have made supreme sacrifices and died noble deaths. Now let's do the first extract of the poem. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. In these lines, poet considers a thing of beauty a source of eternal and everlasting joy. It's a constant source of happiness and pleasure for a lifetime, irrespective of the fact that it passes out of sight. Its beauty never decreases. It leaves an indelible print on our mind and it multiplies the joyful experience whenever we think about it. It stores for us the joy of a quiet bower with peaceful and serene experiences, just like sleeping under a beautiful shady tree. It gives us peace and a blissful sleep full of pleasant and comforting dreams. Beautiful sights act like nutrition for a healthy mind. Thus, refresh and relax us by driving away aggression and restlessness. Peaceful and serene experiences make our breathing easy and comfortable. So this was all about the poet says in extract 1. So there are certain literary devices used in it. First, the rhyming scheme of this extract. It is AA, BB, C. You can see the repetition of the sound in forever, never, keep, sleep and breathing. Alliteration is used in sleep and sweet. Metaphor, bower quiet, whose calmness is compared to the calming effect of a beautiful thing. Now let's start the second extract of this poem. Therefore, every morrow we are reading a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and overdarkened ways made for our searching. In these lines, Keats stresses the unbreakable bond of man with nature and the earth. Life on earth would be a pain without beauty around us. The beauties of earth fascinate us. Every object of earth is a source of happiness. Therefore, the poet says, on every morning we are reading a flowery wreath to bind us to the earth. But man himself is the root cause of his worries, as he is inherently selfish and lacks human values. It makes his life gloomy as he cultivates unhealthy and evil ways that cause pain and loss of hope. All such things bring misery and suffering to men. There are few noble people who have risen above their petty differences and show magnanimity and generosity. And on this earth, there is surely a dearth or storage of such noble souls. But beauty from nature gives us immense pleasure that helps us escape these harsh realities of life. So, this was all about the second extract. The literary devices used in this extract is alliteration, in use of band, bind, and in noble nature, metaphor, in reading a flowery band, and again the imagery in reading a flowery band is used in this extract. Now let's do the third extract of the poem. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep, and such are daffodils with the green world they live in. In these lines, the poet says, in spite of feelings of hopelessness and gloom, we are able to find our happiness in the beautiful objects of nature. The beauty of natural objects take away the gloom from our sad hearts. Beauty in any shape or form helps in driving away the sadness and despair from our life. The sun, the moon, old and young trees provide a shady shelter, and it's a boon for simple sheep. The poet has made a biblical reference to the sheep as symbol of innocence and divine beauty. Because Jesus Christ was a shepherd and his followers were as innocent as his sheep. True joy and happiness can be enjoyed by looking at the daffodils in the lush green meadows and pasture. Beauties of nature have an elixir of life. So this was all about the stanza 3. Literary devices used in it is alliteration in sprouting shady, simple sheep and cooling covered. Imagery in trees giving shade and daffodils. Antithesis in old and young trees. Now let's do the fourth extract of the poem. And clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season, the mid-forest brake, rich with the sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the tombs. In these lines, poet says, the clear water of small streams make a cooling covert, a cooling shelter, and give a pleasant experience in contrast to the warmth and unpleasantness of the hot season. Thickets are growing in the middle of the forest, reflecting the magical beauty. They have been made beautiful and grand by sprinkling of musk roses, which have such a nice fragrance. The blossoming of beauty is also to be experienced in grandeur of death of those mighty and powerful kings and knights who made supreme sacrifices and died noble deaths. The poet sees beauty in decay and death as both march hand in hand, being the two vital aspects of life. So this was all about the fourth extract of the poem, in which Poet sees the beauty not only in nature but in the grandeur of the mighty dead. So literary device used here is alliteration in cooling covered and imagery in cooling covered, bushes full of musk roses and grandeur of the dooms. Now let's start the last extract of the poem. We have imagined for the mighty dead all lovely tales we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. Here, poet reminds us the beauty is also found in legends of martyrs. The tales of such great men's spectacular and grand lives leave an everlasting source of motivation for all those who read and hear about them. The poet compares this form of supernatural beauty to a perennial fountain that is the source of the drink of immorality. He says that these beautiful things are the gifts from God for all of us. Being a great source of inspiration, they pour forth into us as the immortal drink received from the brink of heavens above. So, this was all about the poem. The literary devices used in this last extract is alliteration in have heard, metaphor in immortal drinks, and oxymoron in mighty dead, and imagery in the books describing valor of martyrs, mighty dead, and endless fountain of immortal drink. So this was all about the poem A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. Thank you students for listening patiently. You can leave your queries in the comment box.